My family is very close. We try to go on vacation together at least 2 to 3 times a year. If someone can't join us, we always bring them a souvenir. My name is Jenny, I'm 27 years old, and I live with my family. My dad is often busy with work, and my sister is married and lives on her own, so usually, it's just my mom and my grandfather at home. Lately, though, something seems off about my sister. Even when she visits, she looks sad. I asked her, "What's wrong, sis? You seem different lately," she replied. "I'm fine, really," but I noticed she hadn't smiled in a while. I wondered if something was wrong with her in-laws. She quickly got defensive and said, "No, everything is fine. Stop saying strange things." Then she lost her temper and left for her in-laws' house. She didn't seem happy about it. A few days later, my sister came back, looking very scared. I asked her, "What's wrong? You look terrified," she said. "I'm not terrified," but I could see she was shaking. "What happened?" I pressed her. She replied, "Oh, it's just a bit cold." I was really worried about her. Soon after, my sister's husband, Sean, came to our house. He seemed relieved to see her. "So, you're here. We were worried," he said. "Sorry for the trouble." She got a little homesick. "Let's go home." Rachel, my sister, left with him, but she looked desperate. I asked my mom, "Don't you think something is wrong with my sister?" Mom agreed, saying she noticed how scared Rachel looked when Sean arrived. We both worried that Rachel might be mistreated at her in-laws' house. One day, I decided to visit my sister's in-laws. Her mother-in-law, Layla, welcomed me at the door and said, "Oh my, it's been a while. Jenny, what brings you here?" I told her, "My sister has been acting strange, and I wanted to see if everything is okay." Layla replied, "Everything is fine here. There's nothing unusual." As we talked at the door, I heard a loud noise from inside the house. I asked, "What's happening? What's that noise?" Layla just said, "I don't know. I'm busy today. You should go home." I wanted to go inside, but she wouldn't let me. I tried to check on my sister, but I ended up being turned away. A few days later, something shocking happened. My sister came back home crying. "What's wrong, sis? Are you okay? What happened?" I asked my sister as she cried. She couldn't tell me what was wrong, and when I looked closely, I noticed bruises on her body. It seemed like Layla and Sean had hurt her. "This is awful. How could they do this?" I held my sister tightly, both of us crying together, but there was something even more troubling on her mind. "The baby, our baby," she said. My sister already had a child, but the baby was still very young and couldn't take care of himself. I noticed she hadn't brought the baby with her. "Where's the baby? What happened?" I asked. Through her tears, she replied, "They hurt our baby." "What do you mean they hurt him? What did they do?" I pressed her. "I've been putting up with Sean's abuse and my mother-in-law's unreasonable behavior for so long, but when I finally fought back, they threatened the baby." "That's horrible," I exclaimed. She had been enduring so much just to protect the baby, but then her voice trembled, and she couldn't speak anymore. At that moment, our grandfather arrived. "What's going on? What happened?" he asked. My sister, still crying, explained everything to him. After hearing the story, Grandpa said only, "Huh." Then, he picked up the phone. "Who are you calling?" I asked, but he didn't answer. He just said, "We're going to their house." So, he took Mom, my sister, and me in the car and drove us to Layla and Sean's home. About 10 minutes later, we arrived. Layla greeted us and said, "What a surprise to see the whole family here." She acted like she didn't know anything was wrong. "I heard that you hurt my granddaughter and my great-grandchild," Grandpa said quietly. Layla just laughed and replied, "Who cares? It's not a big deal. It's all her fault anyway." She pointed at my sister. I was confused about what my sister could be blamed for. Layla said my sister had told Sean to eat less sausage because it wasn't healthy, but he ate it every day. "What's wrong with letting him eat what he likes?" my sister asked. "And you hurt my granddaughter over that?" Grandpa asked, upset. Layla dismissed it, saying, "You're making a fuss over nothing. It's ridiculous for you to come all the way here with your whole family. Are you all fools?" She laughed, showing no shame. Grandpa was quiet, but I could see he was really angry from the lines on his forehead. Just then, Sean, my sister's husband, showed up. "Hey, Rachel, you're finally back. Did you go to your parents again? I was worried about you," he said, but he didn't seem worried at all. "Why is the whole family here?" he asked. Grandpa replied, "We're here to take you down." "Take down? What's this old man talking about?" Sean replied, looking confused. Layla and Sean laughed, but then Grandpa started to laugh, too. What are you laughing at? Sean asked angrily. Grandpa said, I was just thinking about what's going to happen to you soon. They should arrive any minute now. What are you talking about? Sean questioned. Just then, one car after another began to pull up and park in front of Layla and Sean's house. What's happening? I wondered aloud as people started getting out of the cars. Soon, a crowd surrounded the house. There must have been about 30 people. I recognized many of them. They were all my relatives. What on earth? Who are all these people? Why are so many here? I asked in shock. They're my family, Grandpa said. They heard my precious granddaughter had been mistreated and wanted to step in. Sean complained. You're crowding in front of our house like this. You're being a nuisance. Well then, let's go inside, Grandpa said. He led our relatives into the house, and despite Sean's protests, we followed him inside. In the living room, I saw my sister's baby crying. Oh no, his face is all swollen. My sister cried as she quickly picked him up. I was terrified to think they had been hurting the baby while my sister was away. Did you really hurt such a small child? I asked, concerned. Sean and Layla replied, that's not it. This was unavoidable. We didn't want to do this. Layla explained. The baby wouldn't stop crying, so we had no choice but to hit him. You don't hit a child just because they won't stop crying, I said, feeling furious. Layla and Sean were not thinking clearly. I can't forgive this. How dare you do this to my family? Some of our relatives are police officers, and we can report you for assault. Grandpa was angry as he spoke. Wait, you have police officers? But isn't this a civil matter? Sean asked, trying to defend himself. Not necessarily. If there's evidence of assault, it can become a police matter, Grandpa replied. He checked with our relatives, and they agreed. After what they did to my sister and the baby, I won't be satisfied until they're taken away by the police. But Layla and Sean kept making weak excuses. There's no need to push this hard. We just need to make sure this doesn't happen again, Layla said, her voice shaking. It seemed she realized how serious this was. Rachel, say something, Sean pleaded. We didn't do anything wrong, did we? It was just a little rough handling. My sister stayed quiet and looked down. Hey, say something, Rachel, we're married, right? Help me out here, Sean yelled. Grandpa stepped in front of my sister, angry. How dare you talk to my granddaughter like that? He shouted. Sean tried to argue, but Grandpa stood his ground. Enough is enough, by your logic. No matter how much you hurt Rachel, we can't intervene because we're not family. How can we just stand by? Grandpa's rage was strong, and Sean looked scared and started to cry. Wait just a minute, you barged into our house, isn't that trespassing? If I call the police, won't you get arrested? Sean shouted. We're willing to face any punishment for that, Grandpa said firmly, but you need to understand that what you're doing is much worse than trespassing. Wait, what are you saying? Layla started to cry. Suddenly, Layla charged into the crowd of relatives. What do you think you're doing? She shouted. As Grandpa tried to stop her, Layla lunged at my sister. What were you thinking? Calling all these people? You're causing us problems. Go home now. Layla shook my sister by the shoulders. Fix this right now. Stop it. Let go, my sister cried. Grandpa pulled Layla away forcefully. Wow, throwing a fragile woman like that? How cruel. Layla tried to provoke him, but Grandpa didn't back down. The problem is you attacking Rachel just now. It's not my fault. We were living peacefully, and then this happens because of her, Layla exclaimed. You might have been living in peace, but Rachel wasn't. It seems you've been very cruel to her, even to your own grandchild. How can you be so shameless? Grandpa said. I'm not being shameless, I'm just stating the facts, Layla argued. Rachel, say something. You've been silent this whole time. This is all your fault, Layla shouted at my sister. Finally, my sister looked up and spoke. Mother-in-law, I don't want to live in this house anymore. What are you talking about? Layla replied, confused. You and Sean have always treated me terribly. I never thought my marriage would be like this. I want a divorce. A divorce? Layla exclaimed in shock. My sister must have been holding back her feelings for a long time to protect her child, but with the support of Grandpa and Mom, she found the courage to declare her decision with determination in her eyes. Don't joke around. I'll never agree to a divorce. You're going to live as my servant forever, Sean yelled back. No way, I'm not your tool, and I won't let you control me, my sister shot back. Grandpa was impressed by her strong stance. You're definitely my granddaughter. When you decide to act, You really act, he said. This isn't the time for this conversation. I won't allow a divorce. I need a servant too. If you're saying you'll divorce, then you need to pay Sean compensation. Why would I owe any compensation? My sister asked, confused. Of course you owe us. You've been a pain in the neck for Sean all this while. You owe us a few $1,000,000 in damages, Layla said. Hold on, that's out of line. Grandpa jumped back into the conversation. You've been the problem. You've treated Rachel and my great-granddaughter horribly. You should be the ones paying damages in the divorce. What? There's no way we're paying that. Besides, we don't have that kind of money, Sean protested. I won't accept any excuses. You'll pay, even in installments. We have lawyers in the family, so don't think you can just run away, Grandpa insisted. What, you even have lawyers? Sean sounded worried. Mom, what are we going to do? Should we apologize? Layla asked. What are you talking about? We don't even know if an apology will be accepted, my mom replied. But if the company finds out we're getting divorced, it will become awkward at work, Layla worried. Work? Grandpa seemed to remember something when he heard that. Come to think of it, I think I've heard of Rachel's husband's company somewhere. I remember now. Do you work for the company run by my relatives? What, you have relatives there too? Layla asked, shocked. There are plenty of punishments waiting for you, but trespassing isn't the worst of your crimes, Grandpa said. We'll need to address that first. Fired? Not just divorced, but fired? Don't joke around. I absolutely won't allow that, Sean shouted. Do you think saying you don't want to get fired will let you off the hook? Reflect on what you've done, Grandpa said firmly. Mom, do something, I'm going to get fired, Sean cried out. You people, this is outrageous. It's unfair to pile all this on us, Layla complained. Who was the one doing outrageous things first? I've only been protecting my adorable granddaughter. Grandpa's eyes were stern as he glared at Layla and Sean. They looked so frightened they couldn't even respond. Let's end this conversation here. Rachel, you can rest easy. Our relatives will handle the rest. Thank you, Grandpa, my sister said as they were leaving her in-laws' house. But Layla and Sean started crying out in despair. Wait, we were wrong. Please don't go through with the divorce. I'm begging you, Sean shouted desperately. But my sister didn't look back. She got into Grandpa's car, and they drove away. You should give up. Everything that's happened is your own doing, Layla yelled after them. Why did this have to happen? It's all Mom's fault, Sean complained. I'm not the one at fault here. You are, my mom shot back. Sean and Layla continued arguing until they were out of sight. We went home after that, leaving the legal matters to our family lawyer, the police, and the owner of Sean's company. In the end, my sister was able to divorce Sean and even got a settlement. Sean was fired from his job and had a hard time finding a new one. Finally, my sister was free, and she couldn't help but cry tears of joy. A while later, we noticed Sean hanging around our house. He seemed to want to reconcile with my sister, but she had no intention of that happening. The moment Grandpa saw Sean, he was furious. He immediately called our family member who was a police officer and had Sean arrested for stalking. After that, a restraining order was placed on Sean, and he stopped coming around our house. Finally, peace returned to our home. My sister said she plans to raise her baby with the support of our family for a while. I also help take care of the baby, and we enjoy our life together as a wonderful family.